Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, the show that continues to stream stories of entrepreneurship, leadership in real time on how people are dealing with this economy, how leaders and entrepreneurs are dealing with this economy. Our next guest is Nancy Lurker, CEO of EyePoint Pharma. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, Nancy, I think we got a few things to talk about. You've got quite a long little bio I've been looking at. So why don't we start by talking first about EyePoint Pharma, what it is?
Yeah, EyePoint Pharmaceuticals is a drug delivery ophthalmology company. We're really a biotech ophthalmology company. And what we have is a proprietary, tiny little bioerodible insert that gets injected into the back of the eye. And I know it sounds terrible to your listeners, but unfortunately, in the eye diseases that we are in clinical trials with, millions of these patients get regular monthly or every other month eye injections. And therein lies the problem. So ours is a 6-month, as opposed to what's on the market today, which is every month or every other month, little insert that gets inserted in the back of the eye. In the doctor's office. It's a very simple one-time injection. And instead of having to go in, as I said, every month or every other month with the big drugs, Eylea, Lucentis, and now a new one out from Roche, which is Vabysmo, and about 25% of patients there are able to get out to once every 4 months. We believe we can get potentially 50% or more of patients out every 6 months to get this injection and this bioerodible drug getting released into the back of the eye.
Well, obviously it all sounds good. I assume you're still in clinical trials. Is that correct?
We are, yeah. So we have 2 phase 2 studies, and for your listeners, who just a little bit of quick introduction, you got your preclinical, which you have to get, animal toxicology and make sure that it works in the animal. Then you go into humans phase 1. That's to test your safety. And we released our phase 1. So safety was number 1. And then we also did look at efficacy. That was 17 patients. We call that our DAVIO 1 study. And we had terrific results. Very, very safe. And this insert has been approved in 4 other FDA drugs. So we know our drug delivery technology works. The only issue was it's a new active drug inside the insert called vorolanib. And in the phase 1, it worked very well. There's another number of other companies that are looking at these anti-VEGF tyrosine kinase inhibitors. They've showed good results as well, but their drug delivery isn't as good. And now we're in phase 2 with 2 eye diseases, wet AMD and diabetic retinopathy. And some of your listeners may either have it themselves or they may have family members who have these diseases, because unfortunately they're quite common, particularly with the baby boomers getting older. It's primarily a disease of the aging.
Well, my mother had eye problems as a type 1 diabetic, and I watched for years as her eyes got worse, and it's quite a concerning area, and I've heard it from many diabetics about their eyesight. So this is I don't want to call it a technology, but this is a disruptive process that you've developed, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely. We very much believe that it is a major innovation should the phase 2 results report out well, because there's 2 things that go on. And just to touch on your point, Jeffrey, about this is blindness we're talking about. If your listeners just think about, if anything was to happen to you would not want to have happen. Usually eyesight is near the top. It's terrible when you lose your eyesight. So as a result, it's really quite compelling for us in the company just to know, for me, that I get up every morning, I know I'm working on some diseases to help prevent blindness. And these are some of the leading causes of blindness in the elderly. And by elderly, by the way, this starts at 60. And even with diabetic retinopathy, can start in your 40s, but they're progressive diseases. If you don't get these treatments consistently for the rest of your life, there's no cure right now, you will more than likely go blind. And so, but we know these treatments basically stop the progression of the disease. The problem is that think about it, for the rest of your life, you got to go in and get your eye injected every month or every other month for the rest of your life. So guess what happens? They don't do it. Patients can't do it. It's physically impossible. And so what we see from the large databases, because I said there's millions of patients that are getting these injections, that eyesight keeps deteriorating. So we think it is disruptive to be able to have a bioerodible tiny little insert gets injected no different than the injections today from the large molecule suspensions that can get patients, a majority of patients, out to once every 6 months. We think that that could really impact saving people's eyes.
So I have a friend who I spoke to on the weekend in Montreal. He's about 90, diabetic,
Mm.
and I guess he was at Montreal Eye and Ear. And how long until this is going to be marketed really mainstream? And is this going to be cost prohibitive compared to what's out there today?
Yeah, good questions. So right now it looks like we'll probably file the NDA around 2026, maybe 2027. So it'll be 27, 28. So it is going to be a little bit before it's out. But what I would say is that if our phase 2 data, which is going to report out in December, if the phase 2 data looks great, we're very soon, within probably 6 to 8 months, we plan to start our phase 3 studies. Those are going to be large global studies. So if patients who are listening, or you have people you know who have this disease, we could, you could get enrolled in one of the studies, because these are large studies, anywhere from 600 to 900 patients, and we have to do 2 of them for approval. So, though it's not the millions of patients that we hope ultimately can benefit from this, but that's one option, is to enroll in one of the clinical studies. But other than that, it will be 27, 28 time period before it's approved and on the market.
So, Nancy, clearly you have to have a lot of experience to be in a position that you're in. And I'm always interested in the entrepreneurial journey to how you got to where you are today, a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. Can you tell us about your yellow brick road to where you are today?
Yeah. So, look, I grew up a simple girl in Oregon when it was, I nobody in my family went to college, and I was just always very driven. And so I wanted to go to college, and my parents had no money. And but my dad was a minister. So I went to a Free Methodist university that offered discounts to children who came from ministers' families. And so I was able to work my way through college, and I fell in love with the sciences. Never in high school, I always liked sciences as well. And I had some professors who really took me under their wing. And remember, it's always about, you never realize the impact you're having on people's lives. What an impact they had on my life, just to say, you know what, you can do this. You've got the skills, you love the science, and we're going to help you. And so they really helped me realize I could do more than I ever thought possible. And so I graduated with a degree in biology, and basically a degree in chemistry as well. And then I ended up just kind of falling into the pharma as a sales rep. No, at that time, this was back in the 80s, nobody knew about pharma. We were selling not that interesting of drugs, antibiotics mostly. And as and then I got my master's working at night. And then I was able, by taking some risks and just thinking about my career and advocating for myself to my bosses, I just kept being promoted. And so I spent most of my career in big pharma. And then after I was with Pharmacia that got bought out by Pfizer. And at that point I said, you know what, I'm going to take another risk. I want to go work for a small company, and I'm going to aim to be a CEO. And part of it is, at that point, you look around at your peer group and you realize you can do this. So I took a risk. And at that point, I'll be candid with you, nobody would hire a woman as a CEO. So I ended up working for a company that was in dire straits, a small little company. And I took that company to profitability, and then ultimately went to another company that was public, and now at EyePoint for 6 years. But I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've always tried 2 things. I've always tried to learn from my mistakes so I don't repeat them. And the second thing is, you really realize how much you have to hire a good team. It's really not about me. Like right now at EyePoint, we have got a fantastic team, and I have to rely on them. They're the ones executing a lot of this. My job is just more like the orchestra conductor. So I would say for your listeners, well, 3 things I would say. You got to be willing to take risk. And a lot of people, if you're uncomfortable with risk, that's okay. It's not for everybody. These are stressful jobs. And that's perfectly okay to say I don't want to be in the C-suite. But if you do like to take some risk and you like that drive and that passion, be willing to take some career risks and then learn, learn, learn. And it's okay when you make mistakes. Pick yourself back up, learn from that mistake, and carry on.
Well, I mean, it makes me so happy to hear you say these things for our listeners. I'd agree with you. I haven't had the limitations of being a woman, but half my clients have always been female leaders. And quite frankly, they just seem on average to have much more of a team and inclusive concept of leadership, which I think a lot of old fashioned men could learn from. And I've tried to say this to male leaders my whole life who try to be the sole hero in too many companies. And so I love hearing your story. I love hearing about your journey. I really hope EyePoint Pharmaceuticals can make it to the goal line, and I really am banking on you. I love what you're saying. I hope you come back and stay connected with us. If someone wants to learn more about you and EyePoint, how can they find you?
You can go under our website, eyepointpharma.com. And there's all the information's on there. We're also publicly traded. Our ticker's EYPT. And pay attention to December when we'll have our phase 2 readout. Obviously it's blinded, so I don't know the results so far, but we're very excited about the potential of that study. And more than anything, Jeffrey, let me just mention, I mean, it's really about patience and being able to give treatments to patients to help save their eyesight. That's what really is I'm most passionate about.
It's a wonderful thing. Look, even my dog, he had cataract surgery. We were giving him 5 drops a day.
Yeah.
10 years. So
yeah, for those of you with dogs or particularly cataract's very common. I'll put a pitch in. And you can really give your dog some needed eyesight they do it very commonly now is cataract surgery in dogs.
Well, my dog had cataract surgery and, why not?
I think it's great.
So I'm sure I spent more on my dog than my mother spent on me as a child getting surgery. So, I want to thank you for being on Radio Entrepreneur today. And I look forward to meeting you again. You are an exciting person and an exciting company. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it.